Also going to send her an email
Yeah. Okay.
as well.
So, yeah. So I mean, I don't know, so the way I look at this, just from my perspective anyway, is the place I could, I mean, there's a lot of different places I can be helpful on. It depends on how you want to manage it.
Hmm.
But the place I think I could probably be most useful is kind of standards 11 through 20, which are really the
Yeah.
curriculum standards, because that's probably what I know the best.
Okay.
Um, and I mean, I know I read through, I mean, I know some of the other stuff, but that's probably what I know best. And I think from my experience in doing it, I was trying to remember, it's been a while, obviously, but what I remember, and also what I know about having been a reviewer, is that you
Mhm.
really need to make sure you have evidence of whatever, right? So if you look at, for instance, history, and the first one is the historical roots of human services. So we can always say, writing the answer is kind of the easy part. Yes, we do that. Not that that's exactly how you would put it, obviously. But
Hmm.
the other thing is, what you have to do is you have to demonstrate that you've got artifacts that demonstrate that. So whether they be video, I mean, and now we have a lot more video material than we did back in the day. Um, you know, are there any video presentations that you have that you could link to? Are there, what are the assignments that you have that show students actually do that kind of stuff? So on and so forth. So as you're going through each of these things from
Okay.
standard, 11, 12, whatever, and actually the standards above also, but that's a little bit different because you won't have curriculum artifacts. Those are more institutional artifacts. You've got to pull that, which means that over the years the assignments have they evolve, and they should. So I mean, I think that's a good thing. But you just sort of have to. It's the pulling of all that in there and lining it up to demonstrate. Because the thing that you want, and I know as a reviewer, the thing I would look for when I would do the review is, okay. So you said A. You said yes. We have a section where we talk about the history of human services, and in the textbook we have them read chapter 1 where they talk about this, la di da di da. But what I would always look for is, okay, so kind of prove it to me. And by
Hmm.
prove it, what are you having the students do so they're interacting with the material?
Hmm.
Now, we probably have more stuff now than we did in 2019 because so much is online. So when things are online, of course, you're putting that all in the D2L shells. So that's helpful, but you got to pull them out, and then you got to make sure they match, and sometimes they need a little bit of cleanup, which is normal, but that's kind of I think that takes a lot of time. And then you've got to match that with the matrix, which they ask about in section whatever. The matrix, can't speak English here, matrix mapping,
So,
um, that you got to sort of match all those pieces up.
so that's my question. I'm a little bit confused about how the matrix goes with the kind of like what we're writing. So,
Right.
uh,
So the way that it works, I don't have the matrix in front of me, but I kind of know what it looks like,
mhm.
just because I've done it before. And it asks you to sort of, you list out the class, if I remember, and then you list out with the standard. So if you're looking at HUS 101,
Okay,
what of the standards does that
matches with.
course meet, and in what way? And I think they use, it's like, I forget, it's like information or interaction. I forget. There's a different levels. I just don't remember.
So
Knowledge.
on the matrix, what we'll have to do at the very top, we list all of the classes. Is that
Right.
correct? And then from the classes, we list what standards. Um, within each class? Because if that's the situation, then the standards are actually in some of our syllabuses.
Correct.
So we can, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
right. And those right, those should all kind of cross-reference and
Okay,
map.
okay,
The
okay,
reason the reason we did, it wasn't always that way. So when I got to the college, those were not in there.
okay.
So when we had to do the first time I did the accreditation report, the self-study, back in whatever 2014, that's when we started to put the standards from the council into
In the
the
syllabus.
yeah.
Okay.
So and I mean, there probably should be a review whether it still works because courses evolve, which again they
Mm-hmm.
should, and we change some things over time. So I mean, I haven't been there in 3 years almost now, and so you have to sort of look at that. Some reviewers are more astute than others, I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just sort of human nature, right? Some people are more detail oriented,
Mm-hmm.
so they look for certain things. Others, I was always looking for evidence. That was when I would do them. I was always looking, says they do this, show me. Once I could see it, when I was doing the
Mm-hmm.
review on my notes, I would sort of check off yes or no, or if I had a question. So, that's why I always valued that at a pretty high level. And I think that generally is how people kind of look at it. It's like, you gotta show me. And so, I think that just, it's time consuming.
Yes.
Which is not bad. It just is, right? I mean, just you're pulling so many things from so many places and making sure the links and all the things kind of work together
Line.
and that make sense. And you think about it, I would always try to think about it from the reader. My goal as a writer was to be clear, but to make it as easy as possible for the reader to say, okay, here's the standard, here's the answer, here's the evidence, check.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Rather than here's the standard, here's the answer. I can't find the evidence. Where is it? Why is it not? Because what happens as a reviewer, it's like, all right, they're aggravating me. And that's what you don't want to do. Because as a reader, I can tell you, as a reader, it's a good 8 to 10 hours of work
Mm-hmm.
to do it. It just takes a long time. And it's like reading a book. And you're checking that things are there. So that's the way I always looked at it. How, if I do my extra work, I'm making it easy for the readers to be able to sort of put all the pieces together. So they're left with as few, if any, questions as possible.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
that's the perspective. So, and you know, and ideally, which we never got to when I was there, um, there's not enough people to do some of the things that would make life a little easier now because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know how much work it is just to manage the program, teach the classes, and
Oh,
manage this,
oh
right?
my gosh.
Right. It's a big job. I mean, and so, but ideally, what you would want is almost to set up a database of, assignments for all of these that you keep almost like in a kind of a digital library. So
Mm-hmm.
for history, what's the assignment and the evidence that demonstrates that you do this? And here it is. And, that was one of my dreams that I had that if we could accomplish, well, that would have been awesome. But
It,
I mean, it just wasn't possible to do with the human resources that we have. It was just impossible.
and especially with them giving me an additional class for the spring term. So
Yeah, no, it's yeah,
it's,
yeah,
it's
yeah. I mean, it's just really hard to do, and to keep track of everything, and the program changes, and so which is good. You want it to change because the external conditions change. So you're trying to move with what's happening in the world and in the community and the needs of the students and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's it just is there. So what I would say again, as I talked about last time, is you want to get all the D2L, the most recent D2L shells of the classes. You want to look at the assignments that are in there. So you kind of know what they are. So as you are looking at any one of these, so if you're looking at, I'm looking at Standard 12, and when it talks about theory and interaction of human systems, la di da. So you can say, okay, group facilitation skills. What are our assignments that support our students engaging in that?
Mhm.
Right. So then you can kind of link that in there. So it's a matter of sort of pulling those things a little at a time,
Okay.
um, and kind of just making all that work.
Okay, so this is what I wanted Tanya for. So the last self-study was from 2019 to 2023.
Mhm.
So you would want access to which which year, I'm guessing.
I mean, if I was looking at the D2L shells, I would want the last time they were taught. What is the most recent iteration of what those classes look like, and what are the assignments in there,
Okay.
and how are they being delivered? That's, and then if there were questions, I could say, okay, can I get access to an older one? Because something's not in here that I think should be. I mean, the advantage I would have is that I'm familiar with everything. So if something seems out of whack, there's a reasonable chance I could identify it. And there may be nothing out of whack. I mean, it may just fit pretty well, and that would be great. Um, so that is there. But it's really the way that I did it was I had access to all the courses because as the department head when I was there, that's how it worked. There's way I can go in. So I could go into, for instance, the group dynamics course and say, okay, so let me look at what's in there that fits those standards, and so on and so forth as you sort of go through it.
Hmm.
The other thing you can do here too, um, is that you can look at some of these and say, you know what? And I did some of this when I did it. Depends on how much time you have. You can say you can identify this as this needs an upgrade. This needs an upgrade. Because I know when I teach, I can tell you that, you know, I look at my assignments and I think, okay, is this really getting me what I want, in terms of student outcomes? So, how can I tweak it, make it better, and those kinds of things.
Hmm.
So it also gives the reviewer, who's ever doing this work, or the multiple people that might be doing it, a chance to sort of identify, this is you put this in the basket for improvement area, and improvements, overstated. It's just how do we want it to evolve? So, I mean, I know in the HUS 101 course that I just taught, I made some changes that I think actually worked. Made some
Hmm.
changes that I probably would want to change again, but that's always the way it is. But so where are those kinds of things that are
So
there?
here's the thing with that. So Elaine's thing is
Mhm.
all classes need to be standard. All classes need to have the same information. So if we're changing something in one HUS 101 course, we need to share that with all of the instructors that are teaching HUS 101.
Yeah, and I would agree that that's what we should do. What I would also say is sometimes as an instructor, I mean, this is me, is that when I look at the class when I'm starting to teach it, I think about, okay, this is my opportunity to quote unquote
Mhm.
experiment with something, So I'll give you an example. With the history paper, I looked at the way it was written, and I mean, I'm familiar with it because I was part of creating that, and I decided that, this really isn't completely getting at, I think, what the students need.
Mhm.
So, I made some adjustments to it, which I would then say to you, I did this in the HOS 101 this semester. Here's my recommendation. Here's what I got. And yeah, I would want the program to adopt this. I think that is a good way to do it. But
Mhm.
aside from Elaine, we deal with her, is you want, I think, I would want, and yeah, you can decide whether you want, but what I would want is I want the people teaching to basically say, okay, make it better,
Mhm.
make the course as you go. I remember, I don't know if you were with us at the time, and you might have been. But I was doing some work, and they and Lane wanted me to do the reviews of some of the sociology courses, because you got to go in and review that. So I did it, and I wasn't that enthused about it, but I did it. I didn't feel like it was my job to do, but I did it anyway. Not important.
Mhm.
I went in, and the course was awful. I mean, it was awful. I mean, and so I remember having this conversation with her, basically saying that I couldn't figure out how to manage this course. Students are going to be lost in there. All they did was take all that stuff like MindTap, although they were using McGraw Hill, I think, or whatever,
Yeah,
different
that's yeah.
publisher, and they were just pulling that stuff into the course. And that was pretty much the entire course. And thinking, this is terrible. And so, I went back and I said, I don't see how this can meet the standards. This court needs an upgrade. And so she asked me to talk to Eileen, I think,
Hmm.
who's still there. And Eileen taught for us for a while. So I knew her a little bit. And, I talked to her about it. And she said, well, this is the way the course has been for as long as I've been here, like since
And they
2013.
still
And,
hasn't changed anything.
and I said, so this hasn't changed? She said, no. And it's like, okay, that's horrible in my mind. I mean, it's just horrible. I mean, I don't understand that way of thinking about things, because you don't want uniformity. What you want is when I say you, I'm speaking of the general you. The way I look at it is you want the courses to evolve based on knowing who your students are, knowing what their needs are, knowing what's going on in the world. So I will tell you that I
I
talk,
agree.
yeah, so you need to have some freedom to recognize, okay, so Steve might be doing this, and then when he's done with it, come back and let's talk about, okay, so what did you do to the class? Should we adopt this on a bigger scale?
Hmm.
That is the way you make the program, in my mind, in my way of thinking. That is the way you make the program better. So as an example, this semester, I especially in the HUS 101, but a little bit in the 230, is I talk to the students about what is going on in the country and the impact it's going to have potentially on how services are going to be delivered.
Hmm.
Because, I felt like if I didn't at least have this conversation with them, I was delinquent in my responsibilities as an instructor.
Hmm.
And so, and I urge them all the time to, you know, be aware of what's going on. Here are things to understand. I talked to them about like how Medicaid waivers worked, because I doubt the students understand that. Why would they? They have no experience with it. But understand that when they talk about an $880 million cut in Medicaid, this is what it means. Think about, or food stamps, think about those kids in schools you always talk about to me, because the students talk about this stuff and how you see this. It says now these kids won't be able to have nutritional meals. What's their impact? What does that mean for you? This matters. So, that's, so the Elaine method is, because they teach chapters, that's our whole thing. We got to get through the chapters.
Hmm.
We teach information, so it's different. But, so anyway, all of that being said, um, is what you want to do is you want to get what's kind of in there and recognize it's always and should always be changing to some extent. You know, that would be my viewpoint. You're always evolving it.
Hmm.
The students have changed over the years. I mean, I will say, and this is a good thing, is that when I first started, you know, I underestimated the intelligence and sophistication of the students. Over the years, they taught me that they were smarter than I gave them credit for. So bad on me, good on them. And the more I talk to them and the more I listen to the students as they tell me about things, the more I realize we can push them because they're smart. What they lack is educational experience. What they don't lack is intelligence and life experience.
Hmm.
So, it's about how you sort of merge those two things. And so that's, part of the way, you want to try to get that in there. And so anyway, but so I don't know in terms of how you want to do this. I mean, I guess what I'm looking for from you is, you know, what's the plan to sort of move forward? What parts do you want me to work on? What kind of time frames are you kind of under? What do you need from me? And therefore, based on that, what do I potentially need from you in order to, get those things done?
So technically, we wanted to complete this by the end of the spring two term. Like I stated, a monkey wrench. So
That's a big
it,
lift.
it very much so. So trying to get as much as possible that we can get completed. They are giving me a release for the summer term.
Hmm.
So we do have some, hopefully I won't have to teach uh, release for the site visit. They said no more releases for the self study, but we can state it's for the site visit. So if for an exchange, we can look at what courses that we have for the summer and
Hmm.
maybe for you to teach those, and then also some courses for the fall term.
Yeah.
Um, so we can possibly do an exchange for that in regards to the assistance that you're helping us
Yeah. Yeah.
completing. Oh yes.
So when we say it's, I'm just looking at my calendar. So today is the 26th of February. When do you know? Let me ask this question. So the way that it worked when I was there, and so you tell me if they're going to follow sort of the same pattern, is that, you know, you do the writing and then you do
Mhm.
the internal review. That's kind of what we did. So I would write it and then reread it. And I had, I don't remember who was there, who was the dean the last time I did it. But anyway, there was that review.
Yes.
So there's the writing, the internal review. So when I would write it, I would reread the whole thing and try to clean it up. Um, and then there's the review in the department, and
Hmm.
there was a review by whoever was doing the credentialing. I know that I forget the woman who did. I know she retired though, so I don't know who that would be. So they have to review it, and then, I mean, is that still the same process?
It's still the same process. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
And
when
we
does
have to do that prior to putting it into the system
it's
for
yeah,
the
yeah,
accreditations.
yeah, that has to be signed off on by probably, well, it was Mary at the time, now Vicky, or whoever the
Hmm.
president is, right? And so I think all that is there. When does it have to be, or to, because they review these?
So there's a timeline.
Yeah, that's
If
what
I
I was
can
trying to yeah,
this,
ask.
because we were trying to do a timeline for the end of the spring term, and which will allow them to review it over the summer,
Hmm.
and then they would have to go in front of the board for approval, and then
Right.
hopefully a site visit in August. However,
Okay.
if we don't get it done by that timeline, it pushes us back. Let me see. It pushes us. So submit it by. So we wanted to submit everything by June the 15th. If we submit it by June the 15th, they will assign readers June the 30th.
Hmm.
They have 45 days to read it. And then the site visit October the 1st, if we did it then. However, uh, if we don't get it done by the end of the spring term,
Hmm.
I'm looking, hold on. It doesn't say here, but it more than likely probably it doesn't have a December date here.
Yeah.
It would probably push us into January.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how often they do their board review. I mean, that's always the key for the council, right? So you've got you got to get it so they can get it to their board meeting and kind of go from there. So, well, anyway, I mean, all
Okay,
that
so
being,
board meetings. They have a board meeting in February, they have one in June, and then they have one in October.
yeah.
So,
So, yeah, so you'd be at the, if you don't make your first day, you'd probably be at the far one.
yeah.
Well, I mean, here's what I mean, is anybody else doing any writing? I mean, you're doing writing. Who else is doing
I'm
writing?
doing all of the writing.
Doing all the writing.
So that's why we wanted to bring in Miss Nan.
Yeah,
So if there's some things that I'm able to provide to her to where she can duplicate it or write it for me, then that would be great.
yeah,
Mia would be like helping with some of the links to
okay,
place in the appendix, so she can do the research and put that there. And then I would solicit your help and Tanya's help by going into some of the courses and extract the information out for some of the standards. So
yeah.
you're correct in regards to, then that's what I was going to ask you in regards to which standards you would be able to assist with. So if you're stating 11 through 20, that would be fine. I'll just continue with 1 through 10, in addition to the other information. And if there's a need for Tanya to assist me with some things, I can definitely do that.
Okay. So I'm just kind of looking at this. I mean, I have, the good news is, I've got the language and I'll send you make sure you have the right document. But, I've got all the language from the previous stuff.
Okay.
Um, but again, I mean, a lot of it has changed. And I have artifacts too. So for instance, that I use, there are, video materials that probably are not reflected in the last one because these are things that have been added since 2019. So like when I think of the HUS 102 course, right? So, and this goes back to when I was there, probably before you were hired too, is, there are videos and things that are in there that are not going to be mentioned in the previous one because they weren't in there at that time. There are writings and other things I used like from the TTC library which, I have students use. So, there's all of that stuff that we'll have to gather. So what I can do is I will start just from the top, so to speak. So from standard 11,
Okay.
and I'll try to do this to some extent, one at a time. I mean, sometimes I see things and it's just how I work. I don't necessarily work in a linear fashion all the way, but I
Hmm.
will attempt to kind of and every time I finish a standard, what I'll do is I'll send it to you for review
Okay.
with the artifacts that I have.
Okay.
So one is relatively easy. 11, the history one, relatively straightforward. They get a little more funky, if you will, as you get through them, because there's a lot more pieces to some of the other ones. Um, and if I get stuck anywhere, I certainly would let you know, like saying, well, I'm not sure, do we have anything on this? I can't find it. Do we do any of this? I can't find that or whatever. So what I can do is though, I'll try to do them one at a time and
Okay.
I'll just, kind of get them to you for review. And so when you say, are you looking like to have the first sort of complete draft of the whole thing done by May 1st? Is that
That's what I'm looking. Yes.
all right? I'm going to just write that down.
Yes.
Yeah. See, the thing is, I know how much work this is because I
It's
do.
I'm
I
like,
know.
oh my God. And it's like,
It's
it's
like,
so
right.
much work. I have to spread everything out. I have to,
Yeah.
and
It's,
I have to be organized. And then for you to put an additional class on me, I'm like, I
yeah,
still have to teach. It's like
yeah,
you all think this is so easy.
yeah. That was inappropriate. They should not have done that. I mean, what it demonstrates is that they don't understand the volume of work this
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And they also underestimate or they underplay how much work it takes to teach correctly.
And
And part,
that's my thing. Like, although it's an internet course and you still have to provide, you still have to be present, you still have to put together your, I mean, information. You have to,
Well,
it just,
I
it
would
blows my
honestly,
mind.
I would honestly say, I mean, here's kind of the way I look at it, and I would agree with you, of course, that in an internet course, when I'm teaching like using Zoom, I mean, I'm thinking about, okay, what I got to do is I got to connect to these students because they don't really know me, and I've got to develop positive, trusting relationships with them. And so
Yes.
for me, the way I do that is, I send out emails in advance. I introduce myself. I constantly are feeding information to them, trying to respond to their emails pretty much as soon as they write them to me, obvious, and all of that is to do it correctly is time consuming, as you know. And whereas, like, when you think about someone like Elaine in that sociology class, they don't do any of that. What they do is they throw stuff out there, they grade whatever people have to be graded, and they're done. They don't think of, at least from Elaine's perspective, she doesn't think about it at all in the same way that I know you do, and the way we approach it, if you will, in terms of, what we've got to do. I can tell you, I still have students that I engage with after all
Mhm.
these years that reach out to me and ask
Yeah.
me questions, and that's a good thing. That says to me that I've connected with these people, and they still they trust what we've given them. That's what you want to have as an outcome, and that I know how much work that takes. Believe me, I and it's kind of unfortunate that they put you in this position. But it is what it is. So we'll kind of go with that. So I'll work as quick as I can. I mean, I'm only teaching the one course in the in the next term. I will
Mhm.
tell you, just on a personal note, that my mom passed away in November, and so we sold our house because it's too big for us, and honestly, we can't afford it. My mom died. We lost about $2,500 of income that we got from her pension and Social Security and whatnot. It is what it is. But so we bought another house. So we're also in the process of downsizing our life. So I got a lot of things going on, but I don't. I mean, I like doing the work, so that's not a problem. But there may be a few days here and there where I'm not very responsive if you need me. But
Okay.
I'll still respond as quickly as I can. I think I'm
Okay.
pretty good at that. So um, so we'll just kind of go from there. But I'll just start one at a time. I'll start with the history. And really, what I need is if you can talk to Nathan, or if you want me to reach out to him, I'm happy to do that. I still converse with him on occasion because he and I were kind of, we used to work out together back in the day, so I know him a little bit. Um,
Mhm.
you know, I can ask just for access to all of the HUS courses that were taught over the past whatever. And if he needs permission from you, he can just reach out to you, and I'm sure you'll give
So
him
in
permission.
that email, that's the purpose of Tanya being a part of it,
Mhm.
because we've had individuals have access to our courses and they were doing some things that they shouldn't have. So we kind of locked those courses down, and
Mhm.
Nathan kind of um, is monitoring that. So when you send that email, send it or CC both me and Tanya,
Yeah, no
or
problem.
send it to Tanya first and CC me, and then let Tanya um, forward it to Nathan for the access.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
so
I mean,
if you can, let in the email, just let Tanya know we had the meeting, and you are willing to assist with the standards 11 through 20. However,
mhm.
you would also need to have access to the courses, and just let her know what courses you need access to. And then
Yeah,
we can, then, because that's technically the protocol that we've set. If anyone ever asks Nathan for access to our classes, it has to go through Tanya for approval.
yeah, that's fine. I don't see any problem with that. I can certainly do that. So, I mean, the good news is I know all the people, so
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah,
makes
and
it.
Tanya doesn't, she doesn't have an issue with it.
No,
one
I
one.
know you got to follow process. It's not, I understand. And it's wise to protect the courses. I mean, I
Yeah,
think that makes sense.
yeah.
I have no issue
We've
with that.
seen some things like, why is this out of place and why is the yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm just doing a quick, let me see what I have access to. And obviously because of having taught. So, like I have access to interviewing, I have access to the HUS 101, I have access to 102. I mean, I even have access to I have access to counseling techniques from summer of 23. I have access to case management from spring of 24. I mean, and then I have access going backwards. So I have access to courses we don't even teach anymore, going back
Yeah.
to like
But
2014.
you would definitely want some updated
Yes,
course.
because I
Yeah.
want to do what's kind of, going on and doing now too. Yeah. So yeah, I'll go through this and take a look at what I think I need. I mean, I know 101, 102, and 230 I've got. So that's good. So I'll just look at kind of the other ones and sort of see, what we've got. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They never, I mean, yeah, I've probably got access to classes going back to like 2014. I think that's the earliest. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So yeah, we'll do that. Do you want any kind of schedule for just kind of,
Yes.
update review? I mean, you tell me
Yes.
how
We
you
would
want to run that and I'll just follow
Are
along.
we able to meet maybe every 2 weeks just to see where we are,
Yeah.
where what we have completed? If there are any questions, I would definitely want to do that. So maybe 2 weeks from today,
Yeah.
just for an update. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also do have another question. So in where I am, is it? So I am on, let me see if I can pull it up. So it's where it talks about the interim report and review and reaccreditation only.
Hmm.
So am I to am I to upload the previous information? This is the form that I found. Can you see that?
Yeah. Is that the letter?
Okay, yes. Do I upload that there? And then from
That,
there, do I give a response? I'm not quite sure.
what's the date on that?
So this one is June 24th of 2019.
Okay, that's the last one. I'm trying to remember how this works. So, I mean, you guys are in a interesting situation that I'm not, so we had accreditation, it
Hmm.
lapsed,
Hmm.
and so you're starting over.
Yeah, so that's my question, whether or not do I still have to do that?
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know, because that's not something that when we did it before, it was just in sequence.
mhm,
So that was easy. I would just, send an email to Yvonne and say, hey, can you clarify this in terms of how you want us to proceed? She'll give you an answer, and because this is out of the ordinary process that had been used, that we were used to, and so I think the way they look at this, but again, I don't want to speak for them, but is that they take this as a completely new
new.
program, starting from
Hmm.
scratch. So my guess is they may not want to see it, but because TTC was accredited for close to 20 years,
Hmm.
yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that and we'll treat this a little differently. I mean, that could be possible too. So I don't know. I
Okay,
think
so that was
good
my thinking
question to
because
ask. Yeah.
okay, I will reach out to her because
Yeah.
I'm like, how do I answer this?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And you're right. You're kind of in this, you're kind of in this sort of gray area, I would say. And that's a
Okay.
good question.
Okay. All right. I will send her an email, and if I do get some information and need to share it with you, I will definitely do so.
Yeah, and in terms of meeting every 2 weeks, this is, I believe, for me, I'm looking at my calendar.
Or
Um,
three. It just what works for you.
yeah, this I think would be a good time. So today is the 26th, that's the 12th of March. Yeah, so let's just schedule this for 2 weeks from today at this time. I mean,
Okay.
if something in my schedule changes, I can update you, but I don't, Wednesdays are actually a good day for me because I don't teach at the Y on Wednesdays, and I won't be teaching in the morning because the interviewing class was on Wednesday morning.
Okay.
So that will work. We can make that work.
Okay. All right. That will work for me as well.
All right, so let me make a note of that. Otherwise, I will completely forget to send you a Zoom link.
Okay.
So,
So if you can also send this recording so Nia can record it, it will only be between us. Nia
yeah,
will probably make some notes and then we can send it to Tanya so she'll be in the loop.
yeah. What I do typically with these is it's on my computer. I'll upload it to YouTube and keep it as unlisted.
Okay.
So that way, the only people that have access to it are people with the link.
Okay.
And I'll send that out. I'll try to get that done today, but I got a few things to do this afternoon. But I'll get it done within the next 24 hours for sure.
Okay.
All right,
Okay. That
sounds good.
works. Thank you so much, Steve.
Oh yeah, and just as a FYI, in terms of you can give me as much teaching as you want. I
Mhm.
actually miss teaching. I love the students. I do. This term, I mean, the students are so interesting.
Mhm.
Just in their perspective and their backgrounds, they're so, it's such a varied group, and I just enjoy doing it so much.
Okay.
So feel free to, use me in any as much as you can. I'm happy to do it.
Okay. Will do. I will do
Okay.
that. I will
All right.
get
So I'll get working on this and we'll go from there. If you need anything, you know how to reach me.
will do. Thank you so much, Stephen. You have a great afternoon.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.